Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. Today I have a very special guest with me, Tonya Carter. Welcome, Tonya.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for having me. I really appreciate this a lot.
Yes, absolutely. So, Tonya, really quick, I'm going to tell everybody, you reached out to me. We found each other on Instagram. We have very similar passions. You help divorced women. I love this tagline. You help divorced women find their voice, regain their power, and obtain personal freedom to live a thriving life. I don't know how long it took you to come up with that, but that is an amazing line. I was typing that. I need a line like that. That is so good. You are the author of the book, Divorce Your Story, A Woman's Guide to Heal and Thrive After Divorce. You're a relationship coach and also a podcaster of the Reinvent U Podcast. So happy to have you here. I loved our chat the other day, and we do a lot of the same things, but I loved your take on separating your story and divorcing your story. I love the whole concept. So I'm so happy to have you. So I would just love for you to tell everyone how you came to write this book, what inspired you to become a relationship coach, and just give everybody an idea of like, who is Tonya and how did you get to this point where you were helping women through this kind of transition in their life?
Yeah, it's crazy, Melissa, because if I can be transparent, this wasn't my goal to do in life. And the reason being is because I didn't realize I had purpose. So what led me to actually talk about this and really bring a different way of going about it is because I was divorced legally back in 2010. Okay. But mentally and emotionally, I decided to divorce my story in 2015. Okay. So in other words, divorce is just more than from a legal perspective, it's more than that. Yes, that is a part that plays a role, but then we have this mental and emotional residue from a divorce that can keep you stuck and you not even recognize it. So it wasn't just about my ex, it was more about me and my mindset. Okay, I felt like a failure. I can't lie about that because I never wanted to get married to get a divorce. I mean, no one plans to do that. Right. However, I didn't realize the effect it had on me, on my relationships with men, the relationship I had with others, and most importantly, the one that I cultivated with myself. And then me believing, well, I'm a single mom, so I can't, do this. I limited myself on so much because of what happened to me in my past. So I stayed stuck to a story that was no longer a part of my life, but I made it a part of my life because I didn't allow myself to change the narrative. And so when my dad had his heart attack, that's when his heart attack changed me. Because it made me see and get really honest, I would say. It allowed me to see what was already there, because sometimes we just want to be in denial and be blinded to what's in front of us, but it allowed me to get a 20/20 vision and get very truthful with myself and say, you know what, I really don't like the direction of my life. I'm not happy. And it had nothing to do with another man. It had everything to do with me.
So can you give us a little perspective on what happened in your relationship where you like what happened in the relationship and what story were you attaching yourself to?
Ooh, what happened in the relationship is, this a truth podcast, right?
It's a truth podcast. Yes, ma'am.
I'll tell you something. It took me a minute to get here because I had to divorce my story. Mm-hmm. And so what I realized is that I was trying to change someone and make them be something that they never was. Mm-hmm. That's the God honest truth. Now, does this mean that, he doesn't have any ownership? I mean, that's up to him on what he does or do not do. But as far as myself, I realized that I was trying to make someone be something that they weren't ready to become. Mm-hmm. I got married believing I can change someone. I believe that if I exhausted everything of myself, that person will reciprocate it. I believed that because I'm a mom, I got to give up everything about me and put everyone first. I did not create boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Or I would say I didn't stick to my boundaries. Mm-hmm. I accepted the unacceptable for too long. Okay. But then I will also say on the flip side of that, I also had to do some things within me too, because when I kept getting that type of response, it created me to spit out venom verbally. Mm. Okay. So in other words, the tongue it can speak life or death. And I had to understand my words didn't help, not to condone his behavior, but definitely to stop condoning mine. Divorcing your story is a real thing because I still had to check myself simply because I didn't want to see the same things show up. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of like in a nutshell, that is like the bulk of my story as far as like the dynamics of the relationship. I wanted to change someone. I wanted them to, I was an unhealthy enabler. I used to always I had an unhealthy need of fixing people. Mm-hmm. It was ugly, believing that I could fix someone and change people. And I kept the same pattern even after that. So I had to stop and pause and look at the common denominator.
Oops, I think I lost you.
No, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I had to look at the common denominator and just allow myself to face me, mm-hmm. Because I'm my own competition. And I had to stop pointing the finger. I would definitely say that even with everything being said, I can't say that it still didn't hurt me because I didn't want to be perceived as a failure. I'm a winner. Mm-hmm. So divorce for me meant I failed. I didn't know how to keep a marriage together. I wasn't a good wife. So I always questioned my worth. So it left me feeling like I wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then when we got divorced, seeing him move on as quickly as he did, I mean, I can't lie and say that it didn't have an impact on me. Even though I knew it was the best decision, it still had an effect on me.
So did you deal with infidelity, lying? Was there what would you say was the reason? Just so other women can kind of relate, what were you trying to change if you want to share it? But I'm just trying to get a picture of what it is you were trying to change and how you came to terms with it.
Okay. That's actually a good question. One of the things that I felt like I was trying to do, I was trying to make him be just a man. I would definitely say that he had never shown himself to be. Mm-hmm. I modeled a marriage. So sometimes when you model a marriage, you tend to bring that same expectation into a relationship. So for instance, my parents, let me give you a prime example. They've been married. They still married for about 47 years, give or take. And sometimes you see a blueprint and then you automatically think you're just going to take that blueprint and throw it in your situation and voila, it's going to work. And I thought that it would just work because of what I saw, not realizing that he didn't even see any of that. Mm-hmm. And then believing that I saw, let's just say, I saw his mom do a lot for him. And then I felt like I had to do the same thing. And so I would exhaust myself. And then I end up feeling like I was more of his mom than his wife. Mm. I know it may sound a little crazy, but
no, it doesn't sound crazy at all. So the marriage itself wasn't necessarily was it dysfunctional, or maybe you chose someone who wasn't the right person for you, and then you were trying to make him into that, and so your perception of what you thought marriage should look like, you were trying to force it to be something it wasn't, therefore you were trying to change him, change yourself, losing yourself in the process?
I would say it was a little bit of both. I think it was very dysfunctional. And then I think it had a lot to do with the fact that we weren't mature enough to be married. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have the conversations that we should have had before we got married. We weren't on one accord about things that could really tear a marriage apart. Like we didn't agree on absolutely anything. You know what I'm saying? And it just being married made it worse.
So what made you want to marry him? How did you end up getting married?
Ooh, okay. So I got married at the age of 22. Now, before someone says that's young, I do agree. But I don't always go by just the age. I would say at that particular moment in my life, I felt very influenced by my parents. Mm-hmm. I will say that I cared for them a lot. I mean, I can't say I didn't. However, I would say that other influences influenced me more. Okay. Because if I could, at that moment and in that season, getting married just wasn't the right decision to make. It just wasn't.
What specifically did you see? Like, do you feel like you really fell in love, or did you feel like you fell in love with the idea of marriage and you just wanted to cross that, maybe like a lot of people feel pressured, like even at that age, depending on where you live in the country, mainly outside of large cities, there is a lot of pressure. A lot of people get married in their early 20s, mid 20s. So did you feel like I have to do this now, or did you fall in love and ignore red flags?
I felt like I had to do it then.
Okay.
And then I would definitely say I did ignore everything that was there, because you can kind of be a little naive to think, well, we love each other or we care for each other, we'll be all right, not allowing yourself to really see what's present. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to definitely say it was both.
Okay.
I think it was the pressure as well as the idea of what it could be. So I was actually believing, even though I knew at my core, that intuition that we tend to ignore, I knew it wasn't the right decision, but I still thought making the wrong decision would bring me the right things. Mm-hmm.
What about from his perspective? Did he feel like he was doing the right thing? Sometimes we know we're with the wrong guy, but they don't see it. They feel like they're with the right girl. Was it something that he was willing to go into? He wasn't aware as much of the dysfunction?
I would say a while back, we actually had a cordial conversation, and it was just like, we really had no business getting married. Mm-hmm. And I said, I totally agree. And that was like something that, we didn't go into detail about it, but I just think it's one of those things where I had to get to know me to also know what I need. Mm-hmm. I can't speak for him, but not just getting to know me, but loving the me that I am. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like Absolutely. that self-love that people talk about, that we kind of sleep on, is a real thing. And listening more to what I know to be true to my life. Mm-hmm. And, toning down the voices of other people and what they think I should have, just killing all that noise to really listen to what I know I need. But I also needed to become someone different. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean to be someone I'm not, but it's really to be who I already had inside of me. And so I had to tap into that woman. And because a lot of us are looking for what we're lacking in someone else. Which is why we're looking for them to fill a void, because I had to figure out, if I knew that, then why did I? Mm-hmm. And then why did I exhaust myself? Why did I feel like that was acceptable? Like, you got to ask yourself these questions, because, again, this is why I call it divorce your story, because walking away is only 50% of the problem. The rest of it is how you allow it to impact you. Mm-hmm. So when I saw the same things going on in my life, it had nothing to do with my marriage anymore, because I was divorced. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I had to really figure out, why did I?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a tough place to go, but that's where you'll be set free and you can reframe your life in a different way moving forward. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. You said a lot there, man. It's like there's like 4 podcasts in just your last 1 minute. No, that's good. That's good because we have very similar passions, and I made the same discovery where, yes, we can blame the guy over and over again. And I was attracting the same kind of guy over and over again and having the same experience. And it wasn't until I stopped and said, okay, what's going on? Why am I repeating this pattern? What is my part in it? And I love how you said it's not about necessarily changing who you are, but discovering who's inside or fixing what's wrong or what you're lacking. I love how you said that. I wish I could just like rewind and listen to you say it again because I had to, and I even have my Back to You Academy, which I think I'm gonna have to change the name of it because it's really not going back. It is getting back to you and in a focus on yourself. But I like how you say when you're reinventing who you are, because we don't really, a lot of times we just don't know who we are. We get into relationships. We're young, just like you fell into, I should marry this guy. It's gotta work out, right? It works out in the fairy tales, happily ever after. So it's just gonna work itself out. And then when it doesn't, it's really confusing. And there's nobody, I shouldn't say there's nobody, but it's not normal language to just say, hey, we should look at these things before we get married. Or I think parents are just so, worried about financial safety. I told the story about my grandpa who passed away. He would always ask me, are you married yet? Do you have a boyfriend? Like every time we'd go see him in a retirement home, and I would just be like, oh, I get so mad at that question. Like, you know what, Grandpa, am I worth anything without a boyfriend? Do I have to have a dude standing here to be anything? And finally I realized he was just afraid that I wouldn't have any money. And finally he would say, do you have a boyfriend? I'd be like, Grandpa, I have plenty of money. Oh, you do? Yep. Oh, good. And then I was like, oh, this was about money. He just was afraid that I would be, that I would suffer or I would be in need. And it really had nothing to do with just the fact that I was married, but that's what he associated it with. So parents and grandparents have put this pressure because they're afraid we're going to be alone. We're not going to have any money. We need support, all those things. And so there's not okay, let's slow down. Let's heal. Let's look at these things. It's just, I think we're one of the first or maybe second generations to really dig into this in the way that we are and talk about it openly on podcasts. So people don't feel, I don't know about you, but a lot of my clients still feel like they're the only ones, or they don't feel normal even having to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that isn't really glorified in our past generations. I mean, one of the things that I've learned a lot, even in myself and even from the clients that I work with, is that a lot of our issues stem before we even get into these romantic relationships. They just spill into them. Mm-hmm. And that's why it is important. Like when you said, getting back to you, I think that is so important, because when you always hear, I don't know who I am, I think you just never allowed yourself to really allow the real you to stand up and show up. Mm-hmm. I think we've always been inauthentic our whole lives, trying to be validated, trying to be loved, because we really desire a level of human connection. I mean, that's very important. And so a lot of the time, if you haven't been raised to really know that who you are really is enough. If you're always being told you need to be fixed. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I don't understand why you do this. I mean, a lot of the time that has been our parents' way of discipline. Mm-hmm. And I know they may meant that from a good place, but subconsciously, when you're always being told you need to be fixed, you always think something's wrong. Mm-hmm. And so you are constantly trying to change yourself and fix yourself to be liked and to fit in. And so when you're doing that, you're going to do that in a romantic relationship because you're desiring some level of acceptance. Mm-hmm. And so what I saw in myself is that I was doing that too. because I was looking for some level of acceptance and love, some level of emotional support that I don't think I had as a child. It wasn't because my parents were bad, not good parents. It just was allowing me to see what I was lacking in myself because I was trying to find it in someone else.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally. I remember, you know Brene Brown?
Oh, I love her. Oh my God. Yes. I love her to death.
I know. I always just like assume everyone knows, and then sometimes I've said it and I'm like, how do you not know who Brene Brown is? Anyway, so when she first came out with her book, what's the name of the first one?
Daring Greatly, Gifts of Imperfection.
I think it was The Gifts of Imperfection. Wasn't that one of the first ones that kind of put her on the map? And anyway, I remember her saying, those who feel worthy of love and belonging have love and belonging. And that journey to feeling worthy of it that's been the hardest for me personally to really, truly know it. Like it's a great hashtag. It's a great Instagram post, know your worth, but to really know it has been like, I feel like the greatest part of my life's work personally and professionally and what I work with on my clients. So what do you think the key to knowing your worth, like really knowing your value?
I think one of the keys is to allow yourself to listen to your own voice. I'm going to be honest about that because here's one thing about me being a coach, Melissa. I don't coach to coddle you. I coach you so we can take the training wheels off and so you can, I guess, ride into the sunset. But you get my point. I want you to be able to make your own decisions without always feeling like you need somebody else to tell you. There's nothing wrong with gaining a level of insight, but I think we lean on people entirely too much to tell us something that we already know we need to do. I think we have a hard time making decisions. I really do. I think that's one of the things. You need to be more conscious, of your thoughts. That's extremely important. I think another thing we need to do is change our perception on the things that we've been through. So in other words, we tend to define who we are based on our experiences or even based on what we have. So when people go through a divorce or they're not in a relationship, they measure their worthiness based upon whether or not if they're in a relationship.
Oh, and so common.
If you're measuring your worth based on a relationship, then you're going to always be trying to find somebody to get booed up with because you actually believe that that's the only way you feel relevant.
Right. Get booed up with. I love it.
Yeah, because you don't allow yourself to embrace your singleness. And it doesn't mean that you don't want a relationship. Right. But I don't think people understand the benefits of the singleness season. And it isn't very glorified, especially for women, because we're often taught from church, like you said, grandpa, family, when you getting married, why you not married, you ain't got a man, what's wrong? It's almost like if you're single and you're a woman, it's almost as if it's frowned upon. And so if you allow the voices of others to determine whether or not, if you're worthy based upon your relationship status, you're going to always operate from a place of desperation, and that's how you're going to choose your mate. So we have to know.
Amen, girl. Wow. Preach it.
We have to know what happened to us doesn't define us. So we have to stop connecting ourselves to the experience. We have to stop saying, because I'm divorced, I'm no good. Because I'm divorced, I'm a failure. Because this relationship worked, no one would want me. See, when you create that paradigm of yourself, what results do you think are going to keep coming out? Because we can only create what we believe. Okay, so that's the second thing. The third thing you need to do is that you need to honestly look at what you are good at. You need to see what you got. You need to know it, and you need to love it about yourself. And that's important because we live in a digital world. So when we online and we look at these images, we look at these pictures, and we're like, oh my God, I don't have that. You don't. That's the thing. You don't. And accept that you don't.
Right.
But embrace what you have. That's the thing. Like, the comparison trap is real, and it'll trap you into believing that you don't have anything, but you are very qualified. God has blessed you with some amazing things. And that's when you have to allow yourself to see what you got. And don't minimize it. Don't downplay it. Don't dilute it. Don't say, girl, that ain't nothing. Yes, it is. But if you don't know that, how would you build the confidence? And so you have to know what you're good at, and you have to know what you want. Not what your parents want, not what society wants. You have to know what you want. When I ask clients, what do you want? I just want to be happy. Who doesn't?
Right.
So let's get clear. Let's paint a picture. Let's design. Let's live life by design. Let's stop living on autopilot. Let's get in the driver's seat. Okay. And then what do you love about yourself? What are your physical attributes? Because we all have something wonderful to embrace. And many of us are not looking at how beautiful we are, whether if it's your skin tone, your eyes, your lips, your hips, your thighs, girl, whatever. Your smile. Seriously, your curves, your long legs, your beautiful hair, your short hair, whatever. Whatever it is. Look at, you got to look at what you do well, meaning that what do you have internally that you can use externally? What are your goals? What do you want out of life? And then also look at what you have externally, because everybody has something beautiful to share.
Absolutely.
But, so I always tell people to read that poem by Maya Angelou, Phenomenal Woman. When you read her poem, she describes herself, and she's very descriptive on how beautiful she is. And that's beauty. That's when you can recognize it, when you can sit here and describe yourself the way that poem did. Oh, please. And you operate in that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to stop watering down and overlooking everything. And we have to, because we become so dependent on these relationships. And so we minimize ourselves to make someone else feel better too. We'll dim our life for so long that it's almost completely dark in our world now. And so we have to go back to just those small things. So that would be, in a nutshell, how to start developing that self-worthiness of yourself.
Oh, so good, Tonya. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I didn't even want to say a word to interrupt you. It was so beautifully said. So I think everyone needs to hit like their 15-second back like 10 times and listen to that again. Please listen to that over and over again. That's so powerful, because I know you and I have both coached women that it's like, it is what you just said can take some time. It's not going to you're not going to just find those things that you love about yourself in an instant. I mean, you can find maybe the physical attributes, but the things that you love about yourself, for me, that was a journey. I would love to hear, like, how did you learn to love maybe like a couple of things where you found out what you are really good at, or what did that look like for you? Because I feel like a lot of girls are stuck in that spot where they're like, and I've had girls try it for a while, and then they get a new boyfriend, and then they set that thing down to go be with the boyfriend. And I just told my girls in the academy Monday, the things that you love are for you to keep the light on inside of you, so you stay lit up. You can't put down the things that you love and that make you who you are, and then you just morph into that relationship. But it's really difficult to maintain. And people think, oh, I'm just going to get some hobbies. It's like, well, it's not just about the hobbies. Hobbies aren't just hobbies. It's got to be the things that you love. So what would you say to girls that are like, I don't know what I love. Like, I can't figure it out. Like, I'm working, I go to the gym, and, I'm on these apps, and I just want to be in a relationship. Like, I can't find what I love. I think so many girls are stuck right there.
Ooh, that's actually a good question. One of the things that I do with my clients, I have them take an assessment. Okay. And what that assessment does, it allows them to see what they do have, like some of the things that they already have inside of them, like discovering their genius, because everybody has a genius. So, one thing that I realized about me, I would definitely say when it came to how I verbalize my words and how I speak, I never knew that was a gift. It was always perceived as a curse. Like, because growing up for me, it was like, why you talk so much? You need to stop talking. And I'm like, I mean, I stayed in trouble in school. My mom always had to go to the school. And no one ever said, that's your gift. No one ever. I never knew it was a gift. So I felt like it, part of me said, well, maybe that ruined my marriage too, and so I felt the need to dim that light or believe that I had to water it down when I got with men or things of that nature, because maybe it would be too intimidating. Now, I would definitely say that I've learned to cultivate it and reshape it in some ways, because it was parts of how I used to use the tool that God blessed me with in a bad way. However, I also knew it was also a tool to help people be the best version of them. I allowed myself to be real with me and say, man, this is what I love to do. I love to talk. I love to help people and coach people to be the best version of them. I've been doing this anyway, not even realizing that that's what I've been doing. However, what really helped me is really knowing that this really is how I am naturally. It's not a show. It's just what it is. And so that assessment that I give my clients is a breakdown of their strengths, like really knowing what they do very well, knowing their power, okay, knowing how to communicate, knowing how to make themselves more effective, seeing what they value. Because a lot of the time we work in these jobs, we're doing these things, but we're not doing anything that's bringing us fulfillment. We're just living on an autopilot. And so the goal is to find something that you can't almost live without. Like, I love what I do. I couldn't see myself not doing it.
Right.
I just can't. Like, before I was just like working a 9 to 5, paying the bills, and I just kind of left it at that. But I always knew deep inside of me that there was more to me. And I just had to allow myself to go on the journey of. And I didn't know all this in the beginning. That's the thing. I did not know this. That wasn't my intent. I just knew something else was out there, but it was up to me to go hunt. I had to go find that treasure. It is a treasure hunt.
Yes.
It just is. Like, if you were in an environment growing up where they cultivated you into discovering your purpose, that's great. But that's very rare for a lot of us. And so you have to say, you know what, I got to go on this treasure hunt. And so you have to change your paradigm. It all goes into mindset. And I know people don't like that word, but it is the real thing, because I couldn't allow myself to see anything more until I changed the way I looked at things. I had to detox myself of some things to even see that this was something I was supposed to do.
Right. Did you, I know I went to therapy. I still go regularly. Did you go to therapy? Was that part of it?
I did not go to therapy. I did do a lot of coaching. I did a lot of reading books. Like when I say I'm a Brene Brown fan, I read a lot of her books. I listened to a lot of things on YouTube. I did a lot of self-education. And then on top of that, I joined a community. And then after that, I hired me a coach. So I didn't actually go to therapy. I didn't go therapy, but I always tell people, like, therapy is probably one of the best things depending on what your needs are. But for me at that time, I didn't feel like I needed therapy, but I still allowed myself to do the work. I just allowed myself to say, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah. And coaching is a lot of therapy too. Yeah. I mean, what we're doing as coaching, if you went to a coach, I think most coaches have coaches. So, I mean, I would consider that therapy. Plus, when you do all of your own work, I mean, a therapist can only see you for 45 minutes to an hour, and then you got to do the work after. So that's where the real work begins, is outside the office. So yeah, I think if coaching and doing the reading and the self-instruction, that's huge. I mean, it's such a big huge part of it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And so with when I was doing all of that, I wasn't doing the same things I was doing. Like, I used to go out all the time. I used to watch certain television shows. I used to listen to certain music. So when I was creating a new normal, and I didn't even know that's what I was really doing at the time, I realized that my mind was shifting, because that was all I was listening to in my ear. I mean, I was listening to YouTube stuff all day in my car, at work. I would read books. Like I would just immerse myself into it. And I did that for about a year by myself, for the most part. But then I joined a community to just connect with other like-minded people, and that was extremely helpful, because to stay on that journey, you need to start to connect with other people who have the same mindset that you're trying to go, because no disrespect, some of us are trying to grow in an environment that we've already outgrown.
Oh yeah.
You can't grow in it. Unfortunately, you have to accept the fact that maybe your friends or even your parents or your family members, they may be cool with where they are, and that's okay. But just know that you're not going to grow there, and be okay with that. You don't have to not talk to them. You just got to know that this isn't where I'm going to grow.
Right. And in almost the reverse of that, I actually have this on my vision board where sometimes we feel like when we're growing, we're leaving people behind. But I have this quote where I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like, if you stay where you're not growing, you're not helping them by staying there with them. So if you feel like you're outgrowing people, it doesn't help them that you stay, because if you want to help them, you have to grow past this. Sometimes we have to get out of those relationships or spend less time around them if we really care about those people that we're so afraid of leaving behind. But if we stay with them, we keep them where they are. So that was a helpful thing for me, is when you're looking at friends or family members that you feel bad, even people that lose weight, they're afraid to lose weight because, they had their unhealthy habits with their friend, and they don't want to become healthy, and that they kind of bonded over food and all those things, or drinking too much. Like sometimes people don't want to leave their drinking friend, but you're not going to help them by staying there. So yeah, I love that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So, had one more question, and I didn't want to lose it. Such good stuff, Tonya. This is so powerful. I think so many women are, they're stuck in there's just so many things I want to say, but they're stuck in the identity of being with the guy, or who they were with the guy. And they don't even realize, do you feel like a lot of women don't even realize that they never even became their own identity? They never even discovered an identity, period. It's like a lot of us, we get into relationships. We are people pleasers to the guy, to other people. It doesn't even have to be just the man. Then we go through a breakup, and it's like somebody dumped you out on the side of the road, and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know the first thing to do. So what would you recommend to someone? What's the first thing they do? Like, okay, Tonya, I just went through a divorce, or I just went through a horrible breakup. I don't even know where to start.
Oh, okay. This may sound real crazy about what I'm about to say, but I think it's extremely important for people to know that this is what you need to do before you do anything. Okay. You need to make a decision that you don't want to be where you are. Mm. And the reason why that's so important, because I'm sure you've heard this as a coach as well, Melissa, and you may have gotten this from DMs. I want something new. I want something better. I want to be better, but they don't do anything. Mm-hmm. And so when you make an intentional choice, meaning that you have to make a conscious choice, meaning that even though I don't know what this all looks like, but what I am going to do is make the choice to not stay here. Mm-hmm. That's probably more important than anything, because people we won't commit to ourselves.
Right.
Okay. So it's like, we'll give this relationship 30 years. I mean, seriously, like I know people who have been in 20-year relationships, not marriages, but just relationships, and they will keep giving it another chance. Mm-hmm. But they won't give themselves one good chance. And, the fact that you're willing to give up on yourself so soon, I mean, you'll never allow yourself to even see the other side. Mm-hmm. So making that conscious choice is the very first step. No matter, and I'm just going to be real. Making that choice is very important. I would say the second thing for you to do is take it seriously. And what that means is that when we play these games with people about break up to make up, like, if y'all done, it needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is because when you don't know what to do, you'll go back to what's familiar.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because we love familiar territory. And so you have to be very, very serious about saying, you know what, it don't even matter if you miss them. You need to write down every reason why staying away makes sense. Mm-hmm. And you need to leave nothing on the table. And the reason being is because you don't want to wake up in 5 years from now and be exactly where you were 5 years ago. Exactly. Does that make sense? Because I mean, I know people want, like, well, you know, I'm not a coach that like to give people like fluff, if that makes sense, because I think sometimes this is why many people are still in these situations is because they're being fed, you know, some fluff that hasn't worked, and honestly it won't work. And so this is why we have to get very serious about certain things. And so this is why I'm saying, like, you got to take it seriously. I think the next thing you need to do is you need to let go of what's beyond your control. You can't control why they left. You can't even control the fact that they're in another relationship. So the reason why letting go of that control, it allows you to place the focus on the most important person, and that is yourself. Many of us don't understand is that when you're talking about moving forward, you got to be selfish for a moment. And what that means is that you got to redirect your energy towards you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Another thing you need to do is do not make any big decisions at that moment to make yourself feel better. Because what happens is when you are hurt, you cope inappropriately. Mm-hmm. You'll get booed up again. I mean, for real, you'll go get somebody else just to fill that void of feeling lonely. You'll go and drink a lot. You can have, you know, sex with just anyone just because you're hurt. Like, all of that can play and get in the way of you moving forward. So I definitely say don't financially buy stuff you can't afford. Stop trying to make yourself feel better with temporary solutions. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Another thing is to get yourself a ritual, a routine, meaning that you need to have a routine to allow yourself to stay productive during the day. And so I'm not talking about busy, I'm talking about being productive, because breakups and divorces can cause you to stay in the bed. You can start eating crazy. You stop doing the things you love to do, and you just really stop taking care of yourself. So just do the basic needs of yourself, you know, so that way you don't fall into this place of a deep depression where you can't even get out of bed. So, you know, it doesn't have to be this big overdrawn routine, but it needs to be something that you can manage. Mm-hmm. All right. Constantly create a growth mindset. So I'm an advocate of getting a coach. Because the reality is it may be difficult for you to do these things. However, if you can do them on your own, get you some books like Gifts of Imperfection. All Brene Brown books are dope. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to be straight up about it. Her books are very good. And I will start off with one of her books and allow yourself to re-implant something new in your mind. Mm-hmm. However, if it's too much to bear, then get you a coach and get you a therapist. Because what happens is you need to plan successfully to move forward.
Yes, which does require a financial investment, which I love when you said make a decision, because sometimes people, I'm sure you get the DMs where help me, help me, help me. And then there's a price tag, and that price tag is the investment in you. It's not necessarily paying you or me as coaches, but it's that decision to say, I'm going to put money into me, because you and I will put our energy into creating all of the things that you've just created. And I know when, people might be thinking, don't you guys do the same thing? Isn't it weird that you're on the same podcast? But it's not weird, because I want to say to every woman that if Tonya is resonating with you right now and you're thinking, okay, this is the coach I need, then, because I can tell you 10 years ago, you were exactly the kind of coach I would have needed, where tell me like it is, don't give me any fluff. And I need to know, we all get to that point. Well, we don't all get to that point, but if you're at the point and Tonya's like, hitting all those things, are like, I need that, I need that, I need that, then she's your coach. And I don't care if you find her on my podcast, because the goal here is healing. The goal here is to get you to that thriving life, to reinvent yourself, to find yourself, to do these things. But these things do require an investment. Therapists are not usually, some therapists are lower cost, but it comes to a point where we have to make a financial investment. And like, I love how you said, we invest all this time in a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in some guy. And then when it's time to invest in ourselves, we sit there and hold on to money that we would spend at DSW. Like, why are you not spending this on yourself? I mean, it's not like coaches are like, hey, because we put in a lot of work and it's worth it. But we have to see. I think it's the first, when I see a woman say, because I used to feel bad, like, oh man, she doesn't have any money, I need to but we will put our money into something that's important. And so when you make the financial investment, that's the first time you're saying, I believe in me, I'm going to invest in me, I'm going to put this into myself. And so I just loved what you were saying earlier about making that decision and creating the routine, being productive, so many valuable things. I mean, so if you are completely financially strapped, you can start with that. But I would love for you to share with everyone, where can they find you and the resources you have. You have a book, Divorce Your Story, A Woman's Guide to Heal and Thrive After Divorce, or we were talking before about even after a breakup. It doesn't have to be necessarily, you didn't have to be married to them. All of these things would still apply. So where can people find you, and what would you recommend as far as working with you, or the kinds of women that you want on your team, so to speak, and the ones that you feel like you can help the most?
Yeah, so you can find me on my Instagram and my Facebook as Miss Tonya Speaks. Mm-hmm. That's MSTONYASPEAKS. As far as coaching goes, I would definitely say I am very particular on the clients I have, not because I don't want to work with any, I don't, if I can help every woman, I promise you I could. But you know how when you mentioned like you needed someone to give it to you straight, no chaser. Mm-hmm. I need clients who is ready for that. And giving it straight, no chaser has nothing to do with being rude or disrespectful. It has everything to do with leading with compassion, but also with truth. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's not because I'm barking at you all day. No, I get it. It hurts and it sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like I would never deny and overlook a woman's pain. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. However, if you want to move forward, I got to be able to tell you what you may not want to hear, but what you need to know. And so when people have been in this same rut, I recommend my 12-week Thrive program. And the reason being is because you need to create a new normal. You need to create a new level of consistency. Mm-hmm. So that means if you can show up for 90 days to do something, you can show up for yourself. Sometimes we just can't, we want overnight fixes in certain situations. But if you've been in relationships for years and years and years and years, it's not gonna, you can't expect to be out of something, in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So you have to give yourself permission to create a new normal.
I love that.
And so that's why I did 90 days. I know that 21 days, they say yes, but it really takes 66 days to create a good habit. So I created a 90-day program for women to say, okay, you know what, I'm serious. And that's how I know when someone's serious. If you're willing to sign up for 12 weeks, you're willing to put in some work. Mm-hmm. Because, and that's really important. If I can share this one thing, Melissa, I had a lady, she wasn't a client, but she was a potential client. And she was divorced. Okay. And so for the ladies who are listening, I want you guys to really hear me when I say this. She was divorced for a while too. So this wasn't like she had just got a divorce. She was divorced for years, about 4 or 5 years. However, she was still involved with her ex. So like she was still entertaining him. She was still physically active with him. She was confused because what happens is you think you can handle that level of a relationship with an ex, but all that does is keep you emotionally confused and stuck. And so I told her how much I charge. And again, I'm not in a position to tell anyone what their money is, but she was like, oh my God, that's steep. And I said, well, I said, if you really think about it, it's costing you more doing what you're doing now. Like, and I want people to think about it, because when you're divorced, obviously you divorced this individual for a reason. So you're stuck because, number one, you can't even embrace a new relationship, even if it came in your face, because you're still emotionally connected to your ex. Your daughter is seeing her mother constantly playing herself. So what you think your daughter's going to do? I just want you to think, you can't concentrate at work and do what you need to do in your day to day because you're so confused with this relationship. So much is impacted when you don't invest in you. So when when someone tells me, oh, it's steep, I'm like, I don't think you know what it's costing you now.
Ah, yes.
You know what I mean?
True.
And when that's important. When you start looking at all the things it's really costing you, you'll be like, you know what? I'm spending more, because you can always replace money, but you'll never get back time.
Absolutely.
So I just want to share that, because for the ladies who are listening and they've been on the fence of working with you, take it a step further and say, all right, let me, work with Melissa. Let me stop playing myself, because I'm in this loop. And that's it'll be a different year, you'll be a different age, but the same thing will keep showing up in your life.
Absolutely.
So I just want to share that.
That is so wise. Yeah. I mean, it really, we have to choose who we think, if Tonya's like I said, if this is resonating with you and you feel like, okay, this is what I need, that's the decision you have to make. And not to make this like a coaching commercial, but I think this is so necessary to get people to understand, like, yes, this does cost something, but yeah, the cost of not doing it is far more. Like, I think about, if I had not, for me, the game changer was going to my therapist, which was also not cheap, but had I not done that, I would never have gotten to the point of realization. I mean, there were so many aha moments, so many times when I had amazing breakthroughs, but also a lot of tears, but pushing through that moved me to a point where I was able to, and I haven't announced this officially to my audience, but I did find a wonderful relationship recently in the past few months. And I think about it every day. Like, if I had not done the work, if I had not grown.
Oh, congratulations, girl. Thank
you. So yeah, if I had not done this work, I think like, wow, I would have said this to him, or I would have done this. I wouldn't have been ready. I wouldn't have been mature enough. I wouldn't have been emotionally prepared. And also knowing how to not lose myself, because, when you find a great man, they don't want to be your identity. They don't want that from you. They want you. And so you better be there, like the real you needs to show up, because that's what a quality man is looking for. And he's looking for you to just be you. And if we don't know how to do that, then we're going to be unattractive to the exact kind of man we want to marry, the one we really want to be with. So it's so important. And then also sustaining yourself in the relationship. I look at healthy women where they're able to sustain a marriage because they know who they are consistently every day. And it requires that you show up as your authentic self every day. And so you had to do it. I had to do it. We had to find that. We had to go on the journey. We had to do the work. And it doesn't take the same amount of time for everybody. It took me, I feel like, forever. But I think sometimes when you are called to coach, the road is harder, because God puts you on that path to teach you skin a lot of knees on the way.
He strips you, man. And it's right, because somebody, no disrespect, but I've heard horror stories of people who have been to some coaches and just hadn't really got what they needed. And I definitely don't want to be that person. So I wanted to be stripped. I'm telling you, I had to cultivate, like you said, that being emotionally ready is so important. Because I don't know if some of us are really ready for what we say we want just yet. And again, it's not to be funny, but if you've never had what it is you say you want, you might run away from it because you might not think you deserve it. Because we're creatures of habit. And so when you say, I want this type of individual, the question is, will you be able to really receive that person, or will you push it away? And it may sound great to say I wouldn't, but then you got to really ask yourself and say, man, I never had it before. How would I handle it? And am I doing what I need to do, not only for the sake of a relationship, but more so for the relationship you need to have with yourself, just overall, because you need to be able to enjoy being single or being in a relationship.
Yeah, because real love is foreign to you at first. And you don't know what it feels like, sounds like, acts like, talks like. And so I tell my girls, like, real love is gentle, it's calm, it's not intense and overwhelming, and it's not a romantic fairy tale. And sometimes it's, it's everyday life stuff. And so, yeah, there's a lot to be prepared for. And you need the support system. Even when you find the love, you need the support system around you. If you've gone through, if you've had a past, you've had damaging relationships, toxic relationships, or, we were, one of my coaches, Rachel Luna, she says, you're never going to be fully healed because you'll always be around people. So if we keep interacting with people, then we're going to continually be damaged, right? Because we're all human. We're always, interacting with each other. We're imperfect. We're going to say things we don't mean, or say things that are hurtful, all of those things. So we have to have a support system around us and know, I think, I don't know about you, but in this journey, learning how to do this, learning how to pick yourself up, learning how to journal through something versus run to your friend or run to your boyfriend, to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet and be strong on your own, to become independent. Not meaning that you don't need the man, but that you're not leaning on him for all that support, that you can hold your own. And I believe when you can hold your own, that's when you're ready to really have the strong relationship. But society gives this idea of the man's going to make it all better. He's going to save you. He's going to sweep in, or, he's going to sweep you off your feet. It's like the worst.
It's the worst thing. It's actually bad even for men, because it puts them at a standard that they probably could never fulfill, because we go in with that level of an expectation. Now, make no mistake, a man's man definitely wants to add to you. Like, don't ever don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But to believe that he is just supposed to just fix every problem you have, I mean, that's just not fair.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot of weight to carry. And so you have to be real. Again, we got to be realistic and be honest and say, am I looking for someone to be my savior? Like, you really have to be your own hero. For real.
Yeah. I always use the example of, like, if you broke your leg, you would not come over to my living room and be like, Melissa, I broke my leg. I'd be like, Tonya, we have to go to the hospital. Like, I don't know how to fix your leg, right? And sometimes we go into relationships and we talk about childhood traumas, and it's like bringing, a broken leg to someone. They can make you comfortable and give you some, Tylenol, but they don't know how to fix the broken leg. And so if we keep bringing problems that are too big, even for our friends to fix, sometimes the friends like, look, we've talked about this a few times. I really don't. So if you don't go to people that, and I find even as a coach, people will bring me their big messy problem. I was like, yeah, I want that big messy problem. That's what I love to help you with. So bring those things to people that are built to handle, that have the bandwidth, that have the education, that have the experience, the success stories to help you. And that's the stuff those are the people you lay the heavy things on. But the new guy that you're all smitten and, you're looking at his amazing eyelashes and his luscious lips, he doesn't have that toolbox that can handle everything, and nor do we want to make him feel like he should. So yeah, it's a lot to unpack, but man, Tonya, I could talk to you for hours. I'm so glad you reached out to me. I'm excited for my girls to know you, to follow you. So I'm just going to repeat. So it's Miss Tonya, MSTONYA Speaks on Instagram. And Facebook, it's the same, Miss Tonya Speaks?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And the link in your Instagram bio has all kinds of goodies, the free giveaway. So everyone go to the link in Tonya's bio to get all the good stuff. So, Tonya, thank you so much. This has been amazing. You are so gifted, so wise, and I'm excited to read your book and see where the rest of your journey takes you. So, and my girls, if you're listening, if you link up with Tonya, I'd love to know how things go. So keep me posted on your journey. And so thank you again. Is there anything else you would like to leave us with, Tonya?
The only thing that I would say is to make yourself a priority. And that's a real thing.
Yes.
Choose yourself and just go from there. Make a decision. I love it. All right. Thank you so much again, Tonya. We will talk to you soon. I appreciate you so much. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.